So with the Xbox Developer Direct, we got some updated looks at Clair Obscur Expedition 33 with some cool new additions, including the reveal of the game's world map, which looks pretty sick. And we also got the return of a legendary Japanese character action franchise with Ninja Gaiden 4. So that's what we're going to take a look at in today's video. So if any of that sounds cool to you, you guys know what to do by now. So starting off first, we're going to quickly go over Doom: The Dark Ages in South of Midnight, starting off with Doom. Now, I've never been huge into Doom. I've played some of the games. I'm not very good at them. I don't really have the hand-eye coordination and skill to kick butt in a Doom game, but I know that they're awesome. The action is great, the music is incredible, and Doom: The Dark Ages looks pretty sick. And they're introducing a lot of new kind of mechanics and gimmicks that kind of got me interested. Starting off first with the shield ability. You put a shield in a video game and you give me some good blocking and parry mechanics, and you've already piqued my interest. And being able to use that shield to attack and defend and even traverse the environment looks really awesome. They've also included a speed adjuster for the game, so you can speed up or slow down the action, which might actually be up my alley, might help a lot of people also get into the game, especially for someone like me who's like, this game is too fast. I just can't keep up with it. You'll be able to adjust that on the fly, but some of the other things that really kind of stood out to me is that you get a giant mech suit. You can go full on Power Rangers in this game and fight these big demon kaijus, and it looks insane. You also get a flying dragon mount that has a freaking Gatling gun on its back. It looks ridiculous, but in the best way possible. And this is gonna sound kind of weird, but this trailer kind of gave me Halo vibes, which I know what you're saying, Doom, Halo, two completely different things. When I say Halo vibes, I mean like old school, Master Chief is here, he's gonna do some cool stuff, kick some butt, cool weapons. That's the kind of vibe that this trailer gave me. And I am kind of interested now to check out Doom: The Dark Ages, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. And this game will be coming out in May, so relatively soon. Now, moving on to South of Midnight. This game looks gorgeous, and I'm super intrigued by the game's story. Combat, I'm still kind of trying to figure out if I'm going to enjoy it or not, just kind of based on how the combat looks. It looks like it's going to be more in like that Souls-like kind of territory. Some people are even jokingly calling it Bayou Born, since it seems like it's going to have maybe some Souls elements maybe to its combat and exploration, with some Devil May Cry elements in the sense that you're going to be in an arena whenever you fight your enemies. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, but everything else looks really awesome about this game. Now, the story focuses on the young woman Hazel, and we get some backstory about her and her mom. Her mom is someone who seems to be helping a ton of people, but maybe she's not always there when Hazel needs her. The two of them are prepping for a hurricane that's about to hit. They get into an argument. Hazel books it out of the house, and as she does so, the house ends up getting swept up in the flood and storm from this hurricane, her mom still being in the house. So that's going to be the story, is Hazel trying to find and save her mother. And along the way, she's going to run into some really cool folk-tale creatures from the south, including a gigantic catfish, which looks pretty cool. And the one thing that also really stood out were the boss battles, especially battling some of these folk-tale monsters and creatures. Like, I think there's a Rougarou in there. There's a gigantic crocodile who's like Two-Toed Jack or something is his name. But the boss battles look cool. Traversal looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and overall it just looks like a super charming game. But it's not one I'll be able to play right out the gate because it's Xbox and PC exclusive, and I do not have a Series X or a good computer to run it, but maybe one day I'll be able to check it out because it does look like a lot of fun. Now let's get to the returning legendary franchise, which is Ninja Gaiden 4. Team Ninja showed up here. Brand new intro animation. What the heck is going on? Sure enough, it ends up being Ninja Gaiden, coming back after nearly 10 years, I believe. It's been gone that long, which is kind of hard to wrap your mind around. And this is a collaboration between Team Ninja as well as Platinum Games. Now, Platinum Games tend to have a pretty good pedigree when it comes to action games. However, there is a little bit of worry there because a lot of the top creative people at Platinum Games are no longer there. They've left for other companies. Some people have left for Capcom, so it is a little worrisome for some people of like, well, you know, maybe those people that were responsible for Metal Gear Rising Revengeance and the Bayonettas, you know, aren't going to have a hand in this. But if you look at the people developing this game, they all seem to be on the younger side. And that's honestly pretty exciting to see a younger generation of people who maybe grew up with Ninja Gaiden or are brand new to it, want to put their own stamp on it while still keeping the essence of what makes a Ninja Gaiden game a Ninja Gaiden game. And just based on the trailer, the combat looks super snappy and crisp, like I remember the original games being. And granted, Ninja Gaiden games do kind of have their own feel to them in the way that they play, and they are a little bit of an adjustment. But once you get there and you figure out what you're doing, it's incredibly fun, while also being incredibly difficult. And something else I'm really curious to see when it comes to Ninja Gaiden 4 is the younger generation's reaction to this game, because so many of this younger generation, they were kind of raised on Souls games. That's what they think of when they think of action games. Most recently, you think of something like Black Myth Wukong, which I thought was going to be more of a character action game, but it ended up being more like a Souls-like. And I think a game like Phantom Blade Zero is going to be way more of what I expected from Wukong when it comes to that character action. But I'm very curious to see how the youngins react to Ninja Gaiden's combat and its difficulty, because Ninja Gaiden is known for being really, really difficult. You know, sometimes you have to be frame perfect on your counters, your dodges, your jumps, your attacks to take on these enemies. And Ninja Gaiden is one of those franchises where even a regular mob of enemies can take you out if you're not careful. So I'm very curious to see a lot of the younger generation, you know, pick up this game and see how they react to it. Because this ain't Dark Souls, which is difficult in its own right, but this is a completely different kind of difficult. Now, before we get into a little bit more combat stuff, the story starts off with a new character by the name of Yakumo, who belongs to the Raven clan, and he is sent to a desolate Tokyo to save it, because Tokyo is currently being affected by what they call the reign of the Dark Rot from the Dark Dragon. And this reign is symbolizing that the Dark Dragon is still alive and breathing somewhere, and he must be put to rest in order to save Tokyo. Yakumo is described as being a very young ninja with a ton of potential, and he's incredibly smart. Now, what makes this interesting is that it's not just going to be Yakumo. We have the return of Ryu Hayabusa, who is just such a cool, legendary action character. He stems from the original Ninja Gaiden and then made his way into Dead or Alive. He's just such an iconic character, great silhouette, fantastic look. And seeing him come back is super sick and exciting. And it looks like he and Yakumo are going to be butting heads, because the Raven clan happens to be a rival to Ryu's clan, the Hayabusa clan. So whatever the Raven clan is planning, maybe there's something a little bit more to it that Yakumo is not aware of, that Ryu potentially is. And for Yakumo, Ryu is standing in his way of his mission. So these two are going to butt heads. I think eventually they're probably going to join forces, which is going to be super cool. But on the plus side, we will get to play as both of them. And Yakumo looks really cool. He's incredibly acrobatic. He's got a wide range of abilities. He's also got the Bloodbind Ninjutsu Nues style, which seems to be like these big AoE attacks that also have insta-kills with them. The classic techniques like obliteration and ultimate text will also make a return, and Ryu and Yakumo will be able to do classic abilities like the Izuna drop as well as the Flying Swallow. And they've also put quite the emphasis on traversal, talking about a lot of verticality and having dynamic traversal, and we see a lot of that in the trailer with Yakumo grinding on rails, jumping on like these big construction piece things. We see Ryu doing classic back and forth jumping against the wall to reach a destination. Looks and sounds amazing. And last but not least, we have the bad guys, who are the Divine Dragon Order, who we are going to be dismembering throughout this game. Now, this game is still a ways away. I believe they said fall of 2025 is going to be the release date, but I'm really excited to have Ninja Gaiden make a return, and it actually looks really sick. It's awesome, and just to see these older dormant franchises like Ninja Gaiden, like Onimusha, make a return and kind of make a big splash is really awesome. And that also does kind of give me a little bit of hope that maybe in the future Dead or Alive can make a return. I really love that fighting game, and I know right now it's on ice, but with the way things are going with Team Ninja and Koei Tecmo, maybe a revival could happen in the future. And to make things even sweeter, they shadow dropped Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, a remake of Ninja Gaiden 2 on Unreal Engine 5. And from my understanding, the source code of the original Ninja Gaiden 2 has actually been lost, so they had to reverse engineer this game to make Black. Now, last but not least, we have Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which we've covered a few times on the past in this channel, so I'll do a quick recap of what exactly this game's story is and the whole point of it. So, Expedition 33 takes place in a world where we have a villain called the Paintress, and once a year, she shows up, puts a number on this monolith, and anyone above that age ends up dying. And she does this every single year. So people start dying younger and younger. It kind of reminds me of that meme, I was born at a young age. It's really kind of dark and dour, and when you really think about, like, man, the number pops up, it counts down every single year, you're just losing people left and right. It's pretty heavy. Now, because this happens, the humans get together and put together an expedition to try and stop the Paintress. Unfortunately, a lot of expeditions have come and gone, and now we have our new expedition led by Gustav and characters like Mael, who are looking to take on the Paintress and put her down for good. Now, the story is pretty dark and dour, the characters seem really serious, and I was kind of worried that maybe the game itself would be really dark and heavy. That turns out that's not going to be 100% the case. They did introduce some new characters, starting with Monaco, who is a gestural species, and he's kind of the comic relief so far of the game. He's going to do some really cool action stuff when he joins your party, but he also is kind of the livelier of the characters. And he's not human, so he's someone who's seen a ton of expeditions come and go, so he's probably going to have a lot of valuable knowledge to help out our party. And what's also interesting is that his species are very playful, and they view battle as a form of meditation. So this guy is probably going to be flying off the handles. I'm very excited to see more of him. We also have Eske, who is going to be your mount, who is going to help you traverse the world. So think of him like a chocobo. He's upgradable, you can bring back stones for him to upgrade his abilities, and he's going to help you reach areas that you cannot reach on foot. Now, when it comes to the combat, this is a reactive turn-based game, very much inspired by the JRPGs of the past, and I believe the creator said that Final Fantasy VIII was one of his big inspirations for this game. Now, what is reactive turn-based? It's turn-based combat, but you do have real-time reactive elements. So while you are picking your stuff from a menu, in real time you can jump, dodge, and parry enemy abilities. And there are some of your own abilities that will require quick time events to do more damage, which means that there's going to be a ton of dynamic abilities. Now, what's really cool is that when we covered this stuff in the past, one of the concerns I raised was I really love turn-based combat, but I'm kind of wondering if the reactive element might turn some people off, if it might be a little too difficult for some people who just kind of want to pick their options and not have to worry about dodging and parrying and jumping. Well, apparently that was an actual issue that the developers at Sandfall ran into when they were holding balancing tests. They found that some people were like, this is a little bit too hard and overbearing. So in that time, they were able to rebalance the game to make it a little bit better. So it works in a way where if you want to rely on the reactive stuff and you want to test your skills, you can do so. But there's also counterbalances with items and abilities that will afford you different strategies if you're not too confident in doing the real-time stuff. So I really love that they took that into account. That was a concern I had, and clearly they had that concern as well. So I'm very excited to approach this game and try out the combat and just see like what kind of fits my tastes more. Do I like the real-time stuff, or do I want to kind of do a little bit more of the counterbalance stuff? Each character will also have their own custom skill trees, and you can kind of turn the characters into whatever you want. The example that they gave was the character of Mael, who is a stance character, and one of the developers says that most people at Sandfall use her like a glass cannon figure, but he's one of the few people that actually has her as more of a protector character. So I really love this. This kind of, reminds me of old school JRPGs where you can kind of assign a specific role for anyone in your party and have them play the way that you want them to. You will also have passive abilities. These are going to be called Luminas. Now, when they showed these off in the menu system, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little overwhelming because there are literally hundreds of luminas that you can equip to your character. The menu is very big, it's very scary, and it's very overwhelming, but hopefully there's a way to kind of maybe auto sort that stuff, or just kind of equip the best stuff by selecting a button and having it, do it for you automatically. And the last thing they showed off was the world map, and this is clearly inspired by old school JRPGs because it's done in that style where you have this really big deformed map. You've got characters that aren't properly to scale roaming the environment. You can see all of the towns, you can see some of the hidden bosses or super bosses. This is also the same world map that SK is going to help you traverse. Again, very much like a chocobo, going to help you cross the water or reach higher mountain points. And this really does feel like a love letter to JRPGs in terms of the characters, the combat system, equipment, the world map, but also that melancholic nature, which is something we're going to talk about in a future video with Hironobu Sakaguchi, who did an interview recently where he talked about how a lot of JRPGs have that melancholy to them. And he's 100% right. And this game definitely has that melancholic nature with the characters and the story as a through line for the game. Of course, you're going to have some of the comic relief stuff with a character like Monoko, but the core of this story is something very deep and dark, which I appreciate. And of course, it's got an all-star cast. 2 people I can name right off the top of my head, actually 3. Andy Serkis, Ben Starr, who is Clive in Final Fantasy XVI, and Charlie Cox, who most people will know as Daredevil in the Daredevil Netflix series, which is pretty big. Those are some big gets. So this game is really shaping up to be something super special, and it's also going to release in April. So I'm very excited to get my hands on it, and I'm hoping that they do release a demo so we can all kind of get an idea of how the game is going to feel in terms of combat, exploration, and just overall structure. And this will be on Xbox, PC, and PS5. With that being said, that is the video. Let me know in the comments down below, was there anything from this developer direct that piqued your interest? Are you a Ninja Gaiden fan? Are you excited for that? Are you looking forward to Clair Obscur? Let me know in the comments down below. I am Curious Corduroy. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.